So I thought I'd just jump on today, do a quick live for everyone. And what I wanted to discuss is a tool that some may have heard of, most probably aren't using, but it is a awesome tool to be using to optimize your recovery and auto-regulate your training depending on how your body is actually reacting for today, depending on what you did the day before, illness, all that type of thing. So what I'm going to be talking about is heart rate variability. So like I said, some of you may have heard of this and some may not have, but even a lot of people that have heard of it, they don't really know how to use it or what it's measured, like how to measure it and what to do with the actual numbers when you do get them. And there is a lot of misconceptions with it as well, like with the scoring, when you should be going hard with your training, when you should be backing off. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of it, bit of a quick rundown, and hopefully, if you do start tracking it, you can put it to use and optimize your training and your recovery with all the information that I'm just about to give you. All right, guys, if you're on there, make sure you give me a big thumbs up, leave a comment, say hello. If you're watching this in YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Again, give me some comments, give me some thumbs up. It's always good. It helps the channel, helps everything out, and helps me get a bit more exposure with all this sort of stuff. So if you do like my stuff, make sure you are engaging so that it gets out there and I can keep giving it to you guys. All right, if you do have some questions along the way, just make sure you just leave a comment there. You're already getting a few people on here. Awesome. Just leave a comment there and I'll try to answer it at the end if I remember to check the comments. All right, so yeah, leave the comments there and I'll jump in there at the end. All right, so like I said, I'm going to be talking about heart rate variability. So we're going to be talking about what it is, why you should be using it, and how to measure it, okay? So some really important factors when it comes to it. So number one, what is it? So if you don't know what it is exactly, so it is the variation between the time between each heartbeat. So obviously we're going with heart rate variability, so we're talking about heartbeats at the moment. So it's the length of time between each heartbeat over a certain period. So 2 to 3 minutes, different trackers track it for a different time and it spits out a score for you. Not too sure how they actually calculate it, but it gives you a score. Okay, so, and even some trackers give you a recovery score going off that and a whole heap of other factors as well. So big thing you need to know is it's the time in between each heartbeat over a certain period. Now it varies, and that's what it's calculating, is how much it's varying over that period. So say some days it may be very consistent, like the heartbeat beats on exactly the same time. There's exactly the same amount of time in between each heartbeat every single time over that 2 to 3 minutes. And then other days it'll be very up and down. One will beat shorter, then the other one will be a little bit longer, and so on. And what it measures, that time in between, if you get a low score with this measurement, so it means there's not much variation in between those heartbeats. So that time in between each heartbeat is very similar across the board over that 2 to 3 minutes. Now, what that one indicates is that your body is in the sympathetic state. So some people know it as the fight or flight, but pretty much your body is stressed, okay? It's contradicting to what you'd actually think. So a low score means your body is actually stressed out, all right? So there's not much variation in between your heartbeats and your body's ready to go. And it may not be stressed out in a bad thing as well. Like you may be getting ready for a competition, something may be coming up and your body's just prepping, ready for this thing to happen. So sometimes it may not be a bad thing there as well. Okay, so on the other spectrum, when it goes higher, then there's a lot of variation in between those heartbeats, that time in between. So with this one, you are now in a parasympathetic state. So that means you rest and digest. So your body is it's ready to, it's just sitting around, repairing, recovering. It's in like an anabolic state. So it's going to be building tissue. And this is where sort of a lot of the building comes from. So if you're in that anabolic state, you're going to be building a lot more tissue. If you've been doing strength work, all that type of thing comes in that in that rest and digest sort of area. Okay, so that's when there's lots of variation in between the two. Now, what it indicates is how your body is reacting to things. So like I said, if you've got that low score, then your body is stressed out. Something's going on. Either you got that big event coming up, you've been smashing yourself with training, and your body's just really run down. And it's just in that heightened state for a very long time. You know, things may be going on at work and you're really stressed out. Lots of things can stress that nervous system and put it into that sympathetic state. Okay. And then on the other hand, you know, if you're been doing lots of what I've found is another thing when it's low as well, it can be a really good indicator that you're just about to get sick. So that can you can see that score plummet down, and I've actually seen it the other week when I was measuring. I seen it plummet down and ended up with a cold. So yeah, when you see it go down, there's something going on. You may not even be feeling that yet. Okay. And then, yeah, on the other end, when you're in that parasympathetic state, you may have been doing some big training. You may be just super relaxed, and the score goes back up the other way. Okay. What it can be a good measurement for as well, what it can really show some people is with the top performers. So top athletes, operators in the military, all sorts of things, is they have the ability to go from a highly stressful environment. So their heart rate variability goes really low because they're just super stressed out. Things are going on, lots of stuff happening. Okay. They're super focused in and in that fight or flight response. And then very shortly after, within an hour or two, they can switch their body into that parasympathetic state where the heart rate variability actually goes up. And now they're able to rest, have a sleep, and just relax in between those states of, you know, high stress. Now, what some people do struggle with is the chronic stress. So they're not able to get themselves out of that high stress state, that sympathetic state, into a rest state. So they're stuck with that low score and they're not able to recover in between. So if they're constantly in that stressed out state, their body is going to start to break down. You get sick, you're just mentally fatigued, everything like that. So you want to be able to alternate in between the two. And this heart rate variability actually indicates those people that are able to do it, because it's that objective measurement of what your nervous system is actually doing and what state it is in. So super handy thing to play around with. It also is a good indicator of longevity as well. It's shown that people with higher heart rate variability do live longer and more healthier lives. There's a lot of studies going on with this at the moment. So it's like over a fair while now. So yeah, it's a good thing to look into and get a bit more info with. But to make it important for you guys, it's an awesome tool to be able to regulate your training and optimize your recovery, because depending on what is happening with your body on that day, will dictate what sort of recovery you should be doing for that day, or whether you should be backing off with your training, whether you should be going hard on that day. It indicates, you know, what you should be aiming for on that day, dependent on what your recovery score is. So what your heart rate variability score is. So yeah, leading into a day, let's just go through an example here. So if we woke up in the morning and we took the heart rate variability and going off what I've just told you, and we've seen that it's we've got a low score. Okay. The very first thing you need to do is you need to have a baseline first. So you need to be measuring this, and I will tell you how you measure this in a second. But yeah, you need to measure this at least over a 10-day period. Everyone's got their own baseline where it normally sits. Okay. And as you do get fitter, that baseline does get higher, but everyone needs to know where their baseline is to start with, because if you don't know that, you don't know where the variations are, because having a low score isn't always good, isn't always bad. Having a high score isn't always good, isn't always bad. But you need to know where your baseline is so you know where those variations are, whether you're high or whether you're low. But let's go through this example. So you woke up in the morning and you've already got your baseline. You know around about where it sits normally. Okay, and you find that that your heart rate variability is actually really low today. So what that could be indicating is your training, you've really loaded yourself up with your training and you're pretty stressed out. You could be getting sick. You could have had terrible sleep. Your nutrition could be off. There's lots of things that could make it nice and make it low. And like I said, it's not always a bad thing. Like if you're prepping for a competition or something, your body may be just getting ready for it. So don't take it as always bad. But looking at that score, what can you do for the day to optimize what's happening with your body? So if you have got a really low score, and if you're using certain tools, they'll give you actually recovery score. And if you get like under certain percentages, then you need to take this sort of stuff into account. But if you look at, you've got a really low score there for the day, you want to be looking at things that are gonna, because what are we in? We're in a highly stressed state at the moment. So we need to look at things that are gonna reduce that stress and relax your body to bring it back to that baseline. And that will get you in a much better position leading into the rest of the week. This is all about really consistent training and optimizing, regulating your training depending on what's happening to your body so that it can adapt a lot better. Because if you're just highly stressed all the time, then your body's just not going to be able to adapt very well because it's just hasn't gone back to that recovery state. So if you're in that, you've got that low score there, things that you can be doing, going for a deep massage, not a deep massage. You want to go for a relaxing massage, something that's going to relax your body. Things like everyone's different, getting in a deep pool and just floating around, doing some treading of water. Lots of stuff that you can do that will relax the body. Like there's even, you can go and do those. I did one the other day. It was one of those float tanks where you just lay in the float tank and, you're in that salt water and you're just floating around. That's another thing that really relaxes you. One thing that no matter what your recovery, like your variability is for the day, one thing that you should include anyway, if it's a recovery day, is like 30 minutes of movement, very low intensity movement, just to get that blood flow, get that body warm, everything in there. But yeah, if you're in that low score area, then you want to be aiming things towards something that's going to relax the body, bring that nervous system back to your baseline. So you could be having hot showers or all that type of thing, like stuff that works for you to relax you. Okay. And on the opposite side of things, and also with your training. So if you are training for that day, it's probably a bad idea if it's been stayed low for a few days. It's probably a bad idea for you to be going in and crushing yourself in a really highly stressful CrossFit workout for the day, because you're just going to be smashing yourself into the ground with it. Now, take that with a grain of salt as well, because like I said, you would have heard me say over a couple of days. So if you do see your heart rate variability drop for a little bit, that's completely fine, just as long as it's not staying down there and just getting lower and lower. That means you're under chronic stress there. But when it drops, that means you've stressed yourself and your training is actually enough for you to be adapting to. So let's flip it around. Now, if you go and you take your heart rate variability and you've got a high score today compared to your normal baseline. So now with this training, what we want to be doing is something that's going to stimulate the body a little bit. We're still not like, if we're in a recovery day, we're not absolutely going out and doing a massive session to stress the nervous system out or anything. We just want to be doing something that's going to switch it on. Okay. So when you're in that high heart rate variability, and I actually had it this morning, you'll tend to be like if you're doing strength work, you'll probably be sore that day because your body is going into an anabolic state to try to recover those muscles. And it's a good thing for it to be there. So then for today, like for instance, for me, I'm sore. Something that I could be doing is going out and get a deep massage. Okay. Now we're switching away from that relaxation. Now we're trying to stimulate stuff. So a deep massage, get those muscles firing again. Other things you can do is a cold shower. Again, we're spiking that nervous system up a little bit, still not getting in and doing some stupid training or anything. Get in and have a sauna, lots of different things that you can do. But now we're thinking about stimulating the body rather than relaxing the body. Other things you can do is just do really low volume lifts with not much eccentric movement with them. So not much down movement, like when the movement, when your muscles are lengthening under tension, right? So they're the two different scenarios that you could have. And again, it's having a high one or a low one is not a bad thing. You will see that, and it's a good indicator that your training is actually working and stressing your body enough. If your body, if your heart rate variability is consistently at your baseline, even though you're training, guess what? You're probably not training hard enough. So if you see that, now you know, all right, I need to get in and I need to do more training because my variability isn't actually changing through the day. There's nothing for my body to adapt to. It's not stressed out. It's not in an anabolic state. So it's still on sweet all right. So you need to step it up that little bit. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a bit of info, like what it is, how to use it. And the last thing that you need to know is how to measure it. Right. So there's a whole heap of different tools like trackers and stuff that do measure it. You'll find if you do own a tracker, it may be available on your tracker right now and you don't even know it. I've got a Garmin here. You do need the heart rate strap with a Garmin to be able to take that variability. You can't just take it from the wrist just because it's not an accurate enough measurement. But there's other things like there's Whoops. I use a Morpheus, and that's a little wrist one that you put on here. It can have a chest strap as well, and it's got its little app, and it gives you a recovery score, and it takes into account your heart rate variability, how much you're sleeping, how many steps you've done for the day, all sorts of things, and it gives you a percentage of where you're sitting for the day. So when you're taking the heart rate variability, no matter which one that you're using it for, what you need to do is take it at exactly the same time every day in exactly the same position. Okay, so I'm talking you wake up, the very first thing you do, which I do, is roll over and I grab that Morpheus and I chuck it on my wrist and I take the measurement, laying on my back with my arms by my side. This way it's repeatable. You're doing exactly the same thing every single time you take it. So there's nothing that's going to play around with that score, because you don't want anything else that's sort of coming in and playing with that score, because then you're going to have a false measurement and not be able to adjust and regulate your training depending on what's actually happened, because it's a false score and you may do the wrong thing. Okay, so you measure it over, make sure, like I said, you get it over at least like a 10-day period so that you get that, you get that baseline there and you know what your score is. And then you'll see those variations in between the days and depending on what you've been doing. And then you just need to auto-regulate your training. So for instance, if you had that low score that I was talking about before with that scenario, and you had a big session coming up, you had a plan. So you've seen your heart rate variability and it's been pretty low for the last few days, and you've got a big another couple of workouts left. So over the next couple of days, you've still got some big workouts. Maybe today, just back it off that little bit so that it allows your body to, so you can still go in and do the training, but don't just super crush yourself, because you'll just see that heart rate variability go down even lower. And then, you won't be able to, it'll take a lot more to recover from, and you just won't adapt to it as well. So you're already at your limits of, being able to recover from your training. So there's no use smashing it even more. You're better off regulating it, and then you'll be able to adapt better and in turn get better fitness from it. Okay, so everyone is completely different. Know that. Like, some people can put up with a ton of training volume through the week and still be fine, whereas other people, you give them a small amount and they're struggling with it. And this sort of tool will really show you what type of person you are, and then you can manipulate your training depending on what's actually happening with your body. And that's another thing too. So like, you could be coming up to getting crook. You don't know it yet. Your heart's telling you, your nervous system is actually telling you. So maybe today, if you go in and crush yourself, you're just going to end up hell sick. Whereas if you just backed it off and give your immune system that little bit of a chance to, kick in and do its job, rather than taking the energy into your training session, you're going to be sick for a lot less and less severe and less duration as well. All right, 20 minutes is up. Bloody hell, I can talk shit. Okay, so hopefully this has given you, that little extra thing that you could add on to stuff you track and, optimize your training and your recovery, because it really does make a difference when you can look at what's happening to your body and adjust your training according to it. Because like I said, everyone is completely different. One program does not fit all, and you need to figure out how to make it fit you. All right. May need to do more, may need to do less, may need to just change some days. All right. I'm just going to check if we've got any comments here. Nothing there. If you've watched this till the end, just leave me a comment. Let me know if you like this. Is it something you've already been implementing into your training? Is it something you're going to start looking into? Because it's definitely a very handy tool. All right, guys. Doesn't look like there's any more stuff there for me to go over for you. I'll just check here. A few things in my way here. So I got a comment from YouTube here. I have some queries around assessment. How does the assessment happen? What is the order of push-ups, sit-ups, beep test, and how much gap do we have between each activity? Yeah, awesome. So with your test, so depending on what service you're going for, Army, it's just push-ups, sit-ups, beep test. Air Force doesn't even have push-ups anymore, and Navy, they do their own bloody thing. They've got a whole heap of other stuff that you can choose from, but if you need a bit more info on that, then I'll let you know. But goes push-ups, sit-ups, beep test. With the timing in between each one, all depends on how many people are there doing it. If there's a big group, you're going to have a little bit more time in between. If there's not, because you may have to have three lots of people going through the push-ups, you never know. But there's usually not that much time in between, 3 to 5 minutes in between your push-ups, your sit-ups, and your beep tests. You do them all pretty much in a row, but with a bit of rest in between. So just get used to doing them straight after another with 2 to 5 minutes in between with the resting. It doesn't really make that big of a difference anymore. Doesn't really give you that much more benefit. Do them all in the same day. I have seen people doing them alternate days and stuff, but make sure you do them all in the same day with only a few minutes in between. Awesome. Hopefully that helps you out there. I'll just check if we got any more. We got a thank you. Good. Got a hi. Awesome. Yeah, sweet. Looks like I've covered everything. All right, guys. That's it for today. So hopefully you enjoy my stuff. Like I said, if you're on YouTube, subscribe, leave some comments. Let me know what you got out of this. And guys in my fitness forum, I love yous. Keep up the good work. All right. Catch you all later.